There's nothing wrong with this house. That's what I keep coming back to. The furnace works, the roof held through last winter. The kitchen gets good light in the morning, and the garden produces more tomatoes than one person needs. And by any reasonable measure, this is a fine place to spend a life. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing particularly right either. I made choices for most of my adult life based on one primary question: is this safe? Not meaningful, not true to whatever I actually wanted, not even particularly happy, just safe. Will this hold? Will this not collapse? Is there a floor beneath this that I can trust? There was always a floor. I made sure of it, and somewhere in the making sure, the life got very small. I think about the Boston position again. I think about it more than a man should think about a door he closed 50 years ago. Not with longing exactly. I've made a kind of peace with Millhaven, with the classroom, with the shape my life took. But I think about the version of me who stood at that door and chose the floor over the window. I chose the floor every time. The safe school over the uncertain university, the familiar town over the unknown city, the manageable marriage over the vulnerable one, and by that I mean I kept myself at a distance from Maggie that felt like composure, but was really just insurance. If I didn't need too much, I couldn't lose too much. That's a terrible way to love someone, and I did it for decades. Comfort, I told myself, stability, these are what matter when you have children, a mortgage, responsibilities that don't care about your interior life. And that was true enough to be convincing and not true enough to be satisfying. I was never particularly comfortable, actually. That's the part one didn't anticipate. I thought if I chose safety, I'd feel safe. I chose safety for 60 years and mostly felt a low restlessness, like something in me knew the life was slightly wrong-sized and kept trying to adjust to it. You can't adjust to a life that doesn't fit. You just get used to the feeling of it not fitting. Maggie fit this town better than I did. She had the library, she had her birds, she had Claire nearby, and a way of making meaning out of small things that I admired and never learned to do myself. She could sit in the garden for an hour and come inside looking like she'd been somewhere important. I never figured out how she did that. I needed more than I let myself want. That was the problem. The wanting itself felt dangerous, so I suppressed it, turned it into the lesson plans, the grading, the steady accumulation of a respectable life. I fed the ambition in acceptable directions and starved it in the ones that mattered. The book never got written. The bigger life never got attempted. I watched other men take risks I had declined, and sometimes they failed, and I felt briefly vindicated, and sometimes they didn't fail, and I felt something I didn't examine too closely. Daniel asked me once, he was maybe 30, calling from Portland. He asked if I was happy, just like that, directly. The way young people ask before they learn that certain questions are uncomfortable. I said yes immediately. The way you say something when you haven't considered it, when the answer is just a reflex. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Okay, Dad," and we moved on to something else. I think he heard the reflex. He's perceptive in ways I never gave him enough credit for. I wasn't happy. I was stable. I was managing. I had built exactly the life I had aimed at, and discovered that aiming at the floor means you spend your life on the floor. There's a specific kind of emptiness that comes from succeeding at the wrong thing. I know it well. The pension arrived, the retirement came, the respectable decades concluded, and underneath all of it was this quiet acknowledgement that I had optimized for the wrong variable my entire life. Safety isn't meaning, comfort isn't presence, stability isn't joy. I knew that, actually. Some part of me always knew that. I just kept choosing the thing I could measure over the thing I couldn't, the guaranteed flow over the uncertain window, the life I could defend over the life I actually wanted. And now I'm 84 and the comfort is mostly gone. The body doesn't cooperate the way it used to. The house is quiet in ways it wasn't. The certainties have gotten thin, and the meaning I traded it for isn't here either, because I traded for safety, not meaning, and safety at 84 is just another word for waiting. I don't say this as a tragedy. I say it as information. The flow will hold. It's very reliable that way. But you might want to look out the window while you're standing on it.